Good afternoon. How everyone doing, man? This is Jackie from Dreams Podcast. I just came on to just share my thoughts about something, man. Not sure. Um, I'm baffled. I can definitely say that. A little baffling. And we're talking about the NFL draft. We're talking about um, someone who just not sure what happened, man. I really, really don't know what happened, but I think at the end of the day, it's one of the things that um, the nation has seen, everyone has spoken about, everyone is talking about it, and it's just very compelling to me, very, 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 very compelling to me, to the point of I don't usually make posts, I don't really get into the rhetoric and all that stuff, but just something was weighing heavy on my heart, man. It was just weighing heavy on my heart, and I just I've seen it, I've been a part of it. I understand it, and not saying that it's fair, but it's that's the reality that a lot of times that we deal with as African American men, Black fathers, especially um, African American athletes that who has kids, coming up in their legacy and their generation, in another generation, and giving them an opportunity to pretty much, kind of pass the torch, for that. So, in doing this, man, I just really I was really just beside myself last night. I'm beside myself in just the narrative, the dialogue. I want to give a shout out to, of course, everyone who's given, praise to the onslaught of negativity. I want to give a shout out to everyone who has an understanding. And as they say, there's no judgment. There isn't any judgment, but let's be honest. Let's be honest and let's be open. Um, and I think it's one of the things that it's been going on for years. It's the control. It's the um, do as I say. It's I'm going to show you type of mentality and attitude. But it's something that I put together that I just wanted to share. I wanted to go on live. I wanted to share. I want to have an opportunity for someone to, just really think about, what it is and, what's happening. But what I came up with is I don't have a, it just came to me, if I'm being honest. I pray about certain things, and I just wanted to share something with everybody. And it's called The Weight of Legacy. The Weight of Legacy, a father's story, but a son's journey. And just literally, I was sitting here, and I do a lot of writing, and just wanted to share this message, man. And it's basically there's a quiet strength in the black father who rises early, not to provide but to protect, who teaches his son how to walk with pride and his daughters how to love themselves in a world that often or too often denies them that grace. For a black father, raising children, especially sons, isn't just about discipline and guidance. It's about shielding them from a society that sees them as a threat before it sees them as humans. I've been a part of that, so I get that. But you have to give credit where credit is due. And Deion Sanders is one of those fathers. He's preparing his children for what's to come. He didn't raise just athletes, he raised believers, believers in excellence, in faith, in black pride, and in family. And I'm not trying to make this about race, but this is the reality. As a father, he stood in the gap between his children and the system that has chewed up many who look like him. He gave his son Shador not just the tools to succeed, but the mindset to withstand, and still that hasn't been enough. Oh, in that manner, this is the question I now must ask. And why isn't Shador Sanders mentioned among or drafted among someone early? This is a young man who ranks 14th all time in college, passing football yardage, who won nearly every award. available, who thrived in two different conferences. First the SWAC, hats off to the SWAC, and then the Pac 12, growing his ability at every level, who maintained his composure, his leadership, despite the storm, despite the cameras, despite the criticism, despite the expectation, and yet he stayed silent. Ryan Clark said that, I saw his clip the other day, and I just applaud, what he's doing, what he's saying. And for whoever else, I think another gentleman named John Clatt, he got on and he said, he said, it's what is happening. Like it's horrible. Let's not pretend the NFL hasn't embraced troubles past when it suits them. It's players with serious legal issues, DUIs, domestic violence, allegations, assaults have gone in the top rounds. Some of those guys have gone in the top rounds. But you got a young man here who's being labeled just because who his father is. His father's one of the best to ever do it. He can't help who his father is. That's his legacy. His father was or is, as I said, Deion Primetime Sanders. If you played sports, you wanted to be like Deion. If you played football, you wanted to be like Deion. If you played baseball, you pure athlete. He can't help who his father is, but he's maintained it because his father gave him the mindset, gave him the understanding, led him and showed him the right way to do it. And it wasn't about complaining. It was about getting the job done. No scandals, no arrests, just stats, leadership, work ethic, and legacy. Hmm. So could it be the shadow of his father, Deion Primetime Sanders, a man who was unapologetically spoken, truth to power, who challenged the college system, who dared to bring national attention to a HBCU, who moved to Colorado and flipped the narrative, calling out racism and biases in real time, in real time. Has Shador been made to pay for his father's honesty? Because you can't say is if it's about football, keep it about football. So that's a question I raise to whoever's watching this. This isn't just about football, people. This is about generational resistance. Black fathers face when they raise their children to be kings and queens, not pawns, when they protect their legacy, love, discipline, and fire. And still, they ask Shador to prove himself more. But he doesn't have to. Think about it. Every yard, every touchdown, every battle he fought on that field is a reflection of love and sacrifice of a father who raised him in a world that didn't want him to shine too bright. This isn't just about the NFL. This is about a black boy who became a man, raised by another who fought to make sure he could. At the end of the day, that's the narrative, and that perhaps is more threatening than any touchdown could ever be. And I didn't want this to be long and drawn out, so I'll leave this with this. If you've never seen this movie, it's a movie called A Time to Kill. Matthew McConaughey, Samuel Jackson, one of my favorite movies. And I'm a movie buff, real movie historian. But in this movie, I don't want to spoil it. There's a narrative that was given where this young African American young lady was raped and by the actors were Caucasian. Um, but in that they violate this young lady. They take the innocence from this young child to the point where she cannot bear anything as a child. So she can't have children. All that is, neither that's gone. But the most captivating scene to me is when Matthew McConaughey is in the courtroom and he's describing the incident, he's describing the pain, he's describing the loneliness, he's describing just the scary feeling, thought, things that's overcoming this young child's mind, where these grown-ups are doing something to her she has no understanding of. And he asked a question at the end of the trial. He said, now Close your eyes and imagine all of these things. He said, now open your eyes and imagine if it was your child. That's where we are in society. Imagine if that was your child. He can't help who his father is. He can't help that, his last name is Sanders. What he can help is what he's done. And another thing that I think about is I don't hear anybody saying, if I'm being honest, I played in the SWAC. I played at Southern University. Um, Played professionally as well. So I'm not coming to you with no accolades, and I'm not coming to you with just babbling. I'm coming to you with actual factual things where I played in the SWAC, and the SWAC is no pushover. Back in my era, some of the greatest players, Hall of Fames, the Mel Blunts, the Aeneas Williams, the Doug Williams, the James Shack Harris, the Willie Laniers, like the list goes on. Herman Moores, like it's a gang of guys that come out of the SWAC that have made a pivotal point in this game. But I think the thing that I guess that baffles me is, like he said, Johnny Manziel. And I'm not bashing anybody. These were facts. Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, the Mannings. When Eli came out, Archie Manning got on, and he said he will not be going. I want to say at that time it was the Chargers. I think it was the LA Chargers, or one of those teams on the West Coast. He will not play for them. We didn't get the same narrative. I don't think we heard a peep about anything. So just because a father steps in, just because a father is concerned about his child's well-being, just because he knows market, just because he's been there, he's played professionally at the high level, Hall of Famer, now, coaching in Colorado, doing a heck of a job. Like, how can you just say, oh, forget about this child? But no one said anything when those other things were happening. I heard another commentator say this morning, it's his confidence that scares people. Don't you want a confident quarterback? And I'll say this and I'll end. I paid attention to Shador while he was at Jackson State. I paid attention to his ascending motion. Now he goes to Colorado and does an outstanding job. And he started working with one of the best ever, which is Tom Brady. You can see it in his delivery. You can see it in how his poise is. You can see it. And even Tom said he was great to work with. So if you're talking about his confidence, if you're talking about his swag, as the new generation says, could it have something to do with it? Because I do know working with Tom Brady wasn't an easy task. I do know being Deion Sanders' son is not an easy task, but everyone saw him put the work in. His father wasn't throwing those passes. His father wasn't getting sacked out there. That was him getting up off that ground every time. That was him going to that meeting room every time, making the right reads, making the right plays. They said his GPA is at 3.9, so we know he's intelligent. We know he can play the game. So is this really about football? Is it about power? So for me to you, from Dreams Podcast, I just want to come on and share that message, man. I hope everyone's having a great day. And for those who see it, you can respond how you need, and just understand that it's bigger than football. It's bigger than football. We've gotten beside ourselves of alleviating compassion. We've gotten beside ourselves of really understanding what this is about, is giving somebody an opportunity. Not saying he won't get an opportunity, but the fiasco that happened, the show that happened, the rhetoric that they're speaking of, I just found it defamatory of who he is as a person, trying to ruin the legacy of Deion Sanders, trying to kind of mud drag through it. And this is not about, who it is, because if this was another player, then I would say the same thing. But I just found it a travesty that you're the best in the country. You're the top in the country. And now you can't get a phone call. Make it make sense.